Go ahead and call the Midwest City Council meeting for March 22nd, 2022 to order. I need to recognize a couple of people before we get started. Troop 275, Boy Scouts are here. They're getting their communications badge. I hope we communicate to you in some kind of manner. And also Cadet Hall from the ROTC program at Carl Albert High School. She'll be leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. She plans to go to the University of Oklahoma when she graduates, join ROTC, and then go into the Office of Special Investigations once she gets her commission. So glad you're here. Would you please stand, and Mr. Sullivan, would you all lead us in the invocation?
Gracious Heavenly Father, we come before your throne this evening with humble hearts, Father, and with thanksgiving. Thank you for the moisture that we've received over the last 24 hours, and we give you glory and honor for that blessing. Father, we thank you so much for this council and their service to this community. Father, I ask your wisdom and your discernment be upon them tonight and the decisions they have before them. Give them peace in their decisions. And Father, we just thank you so much for Christine Allen and Espinola Boland. Thank you for sharing them with us for these past few years, and give you the glory and the honor for their service. We thank you so much for men and women who are guaranteeing our freedom to assemble like we're doing here tonight. Father, we ask that peace be in the world. Father, we ask that men and women who are trying to guarantee and preserve freedom and peace be granted safety, that your hand be upon them. And Father, just bless their families while they're away on deployments or they're on foreign field in assignment. We thank you so much for the blessing of your Son, Jesus. We thank you for the blood that was shed on our behalf. And Jesus, thank you for being willing to go to the cross for us. And we ask these favors in your holy name. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll move into community-related announcements. Mr. Lyon.
Start out tonight with, in honor of Arbor Day, Midwest City and the Midwest City Tree Board are hosting a tree giveaway this Saturday, March 26th at 10:30 a.m. All trees were reserved. Residents who reserved a tree need to pick up their tree at Joe B. Barnes Park Pavilion, Rotary Pavilion at 8700 East Reno, once again at 10:30 a.m. Do we have anyone from the tree board here? Okay. Mommy and Son Movie Day is this Saturday, March 26th at the Nick Harris Community Center. The event will include a movie, snacks, board games, and entertainment for moms, mother figures, and their sons. Tickets are $10 and are available through Eventbrite and will stay on sale through Friday. The last days to register your ball player for t-ball, softball, or baseball are here. Registrations for Midwest City's Spring League close on March 31st. Parks and Recreation will start the leagues on April 13th. Please register online at our Parks and Recreation pages or through Quick Scores. We also need volunteer coaches for all ages if anyone is interested in working with the youth in our community. Midwest City Neighborhoods in Action Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, or VITA, will operate on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. until Thursday, April 14th. So it closes April 14th. To make an appointment, please call 739-1239 between noon and 5 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. The Midwest City Convention and Visitors Bureau will be hosting the Spring-Summer Series of Cruisin' for Coffee starting on April 16th. This third Saturday event is a fun opportunity for car and motorcycle enthusiasts to show off their rides. Cruise In for Coffee kicks off at 8 a.m. in the parking lot of Santa Fe Cattle Company. Starting April 1st, Reno and Swim Slide tickets will go on sale. Call 739-1293 for more information. And finally, we wanted to remind our residents that we have 3 free programs available from the state COVID money granted to the Midwest City residents. The career training grants, the job coaching program, and the reading and math tutoring program for kindergarten through 5th graders. More information for these programs can be found online at midwestcityok.org or on the grants management page under community service programs. Excellent programs. Please take advantage of that. And then finally, our sales tax report for the month of March, which is actually half of February and trued up into January. So sales tax was down 4.48% this month. It's $168,000 versus the same time last year. So first time we've had a little down spike. We had a lot of weather, if you remember, in the month of February. So I'm sure that. The other cities, I looked at that. Some cities were up. There were other cities 4 or 5 other cities that were about like us, like I think Moore and trying to think Shawnee, a couple others. Some of them weren't. But so, once again we have a low projection for the year that we're in. So we still exceeded our projection, which we used to budget, by $222,775. So all is well. Hopefully next month it'll be back at. Mayor, that's all I have.
Does anyone else have any community-related announcements? No. Well, we move into our proclamations for this evening, and this is kind of bittersweet. So,
What are we starting with?
No crying, man. No crying.
Just pretend you're mad at me and speak really loud. They'll hear you.
well, that's easy. Let's see. Technical difficulties, please stand by. Hush, breathe. Okay. Well, we'll do it like this. A little awkward, but it'll work. First proclamation we're going to read is Arbor Day or Arbor Week, whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for planting of trees. And whereas this holiday is called Arbor Day, was first observed with planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska and now observed throughout the United States and the world. Whereas trees are one of the most sustainable and cost-effective tools for fighting climate change, reducing topsoil erosion from wind and water, moderating temperature, which cuts heating and cooling costs, cleaning the air, and producing oxygen and providing habitat for wildlife. Whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. Whereas trees in our city increase the property values, enhance the economic vitality of our business areas, and beautify our community by providing a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas for the last 39 years, Midwest City has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation. So therefore, I, Matt Dukes, Mayor of Midwest City, do hereby proclaim March 20th through 26th Arbor Week. Miss Wagner, where are you? Oh, hey, Becky. These two ladies are very special. Debbie, or AKA David, it's a joke, inside joke, is our emergency manager. Becky is one of our most senior 911 operators.
Testing.
Now, these are the most important people in the whole emergency response system. This is the lady you talk to when you call 911. She's the one that's going to calm you down, get the information needed to get the proper services to your house. They're down in the basement and rarely get recognized. So at least 1 week a year, we can call them up and recognize them, and please keep them in your prayers, because they are the most important person in the whole chain when somebody calls 911. Oh, now we have him. Okay. Can you hear me now? Whereas in 1991, a congressional resolution named the second full week of April every year as Telecommunication Week, knowing that 911 is the first and most critical contact for people in emergency situations, and the 911 call taker's voice is the first assurance that help is on the way. Whereas 911 professionals regularly meet the challenges of extremely stressful situations with calmness and efficiency, exhibiting compassion, understanding, and the technical expertise during the performance of his or her duties. Whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response and safety of property preservation, police officers, firefighters, and EMTs is critical and depends on the quality and accuracy of the information obtained from the citizens who telephone our 911 Communications Center. Whereas public safety dispatchers are a vital link for our emergency responders by monitoring their activities, by radio, providing them with information, and ensuring their safety. Whereas Midwest City public safety dispatchers provide medical instructions to callers with life-threatening emergencies and contribute substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and the treatment of injuries and illness on a daily basis. So therefore, I, Matthew Dukes, Mayor of Midwest City, do hereby proclaim the week of April 10th through the 16th as Midwest City Telecommunication Recognition Week, and ask that all of you pay them the honor and respect they deserve. And let me add another thing. These ladies and gentlemen, delivered 3 babies last year by telephone. Now, I was a paramedic, and I've been in the back of the ambulance. That's one thing in the back of the ambulance. Doing it over the telephone is a whole different story. So, Becky, Debbie, thank you guys, and thank you for what you do. We're not done yet. Christine Price out. Come on down. Christine, it's been a pleasure working with you over the last 6 years. You've got a servant's heart. You've got the best interests of this city in mind. And we've done a lot of good in 6 years, haven't we?
We have.
All right.
Yes.
Like I said, tonight's bittersweet. Whereas Councilmember Christine Price Allen was elected to the City of Midwest City Ward 5 seat on April 7th, 2014, serving 8 years on the Midwest City Council and authorities as a trustee. Whereas during her service, she's been instrumental in the success of the Telstar Boys and Girls Club. We kept that together, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Supporting our community and served on the Americans with Disabilities Transition Plan Committee and Capital Projects Council Committee. Whereas Councilmember Allen has dedicated many hours to the Midwest City Martin Luther King breakfast and committee, and has represented our community in the annual Oklahoma City Martin Luther King Parade. Whereas she is to be commended for the countless and many times thankless hours for preparing for meetings, responding to constituents, and advocating for the city. So therefore, I, Matthew Dukes, Mayor of Midwest City, do hereby proclaim March 22nd as Council Member Christine Price Allen Day, and do hereby ask all the citizens of Midwest City to show her the respect that she deserves for her service to our community. Party pick. Get it? And Mr. Lyon has something for you.
Lady, how are you?
Thank you.
So, this is bittersweet. This is a token from the city for all your dedication and leadership you provided for being on the council. This is to give you your nameplate, and in the back is the inscription. Through your time and effort, you have made a difference in our community. Thank you for your dedication, Council Member. April 7th, 2014 through April 18th, 2022. We're going to miss you. You're not going anywhere, so.
Sure.
I'd like to say thank you, Midwest City, and to all of my peers and city manager and the mayor. It has been truly a journey for 8 years. It's been just so blessed, so much accomplished, and I have truly enjoyed and honored serving Ward 5 as councilwoman for the 8 years. And I look forward to still stay here in Midwest City and to be a part of whatever we may need to do in Midwest City. I like to say that not only did I just patriot to my Ward 5, I believe in just working entirely for Midwest City. Even though it's Ward 5 councilwoman, I believe that you serve the city of Midwest City along with just the ward. So thank you, Midwest City. Thank you, Ward 5. Thank you, everyone. You are.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, this one, Espy and I go back 25 years. We worked together when I was a police officer, and she was the neighborhood watch president of Omni. And we've come together and solved a lot of problems. And actually, I recruited her to run for this seat 4 years ago, and she served extremely well, and we're going to miss you. But you're not going anywhere. We're not letting you off the leash yet. So, whereas Councilmember Espinola Bowen was elected to City Council, or the City of Midwest City, Ward 3, on April 10th, 2018, serving 4 years on the Midwest City Council and authorities as a trustee. Whereas during her service, she was single-handedly responsible for getting the city's help in acquiring land and funding for Omni Park, as well as responsible for resurrecting and setting in motion several major improvements to our Mid-America Park and ESA Park. She is also engaged in bringing the Boys and Girls club back to Telstar School. And whereas Council Member Bowen volunteered our Citizens Advisory on our Citizens Advisory Board from March 2002 to March 2018, reviewing community needs to be met by grant funding. Also served as president of Omni Neighborhood Association for 26 years. And every year for National Night Out, she worked to collect donations to hand out school supply backpacks to the kids in her neighborhood on that night. Whereas she currently serves as chair of the Race Relations Committee and should be commended for her countless and many times thankless hours of preparation for meetings, responding to constituents, and advocating for the city. So therefore, I, Matthew Dukes, Mayor of Midwest City, do hereby proclaim March 23rd as Council Member Espinola Bowen Day and request that the citizens pay her the respect that she is due for her continued long service to this community.
So it's with great honor to, gosh, this is hard,
It is.
to provide your plaque tonight as a tradition for Midwest City. Through the time and effort, you have made a difference in our community. Thank you for your dedication, Council Member. April 10th, 2018 through April 18th, 2022.
Thank you guys for allowing me to be of service to Midwest City. But I have to tell you, I'm not going away. This is my home, this is my community, and I plan to still fight for things that I think is right for Midwest City. So I'm going to continue. Thank you.
I'll hug you afterwards.
These two young ladies have served this community well, and it's going to be hard to see them, not see them on the horseshoe. But we also have two new members coming, and the bar's set real high. You guys have set the bar high for those that come in behind you, and I'm looking forward to working with you guys in different capacities throughout the next few years. So thank you for your service to our community. Thank you for your friendship. And I know you're not going away, and I know where you live.
Might not be on the horse, but we'll be around.
I want to make just a quick comment if I could.
Yes, ma'am.
So, I'm just going to speak from my experience, but, you know, it's very sad with both you, Christine, and you, SB, leaving us on the council, and I know that you both will stay active and involved, and I know that we'll continue to talk just like before, but in particular, my relationship with these two ladies, when I came on the council, Christine was the only other female representative on the council. SB was a wonderful addition, and we've had a great friendship and relationship working together. We don't always agree, but we do check on each other. We do. Christine texted me recently, just, hey, you know, how are you feeling? Like, haven't seen you. And, you know, we spend a lot of time together. We give a lot of dedication to the city, and that's something that you could say about everybody who's up here, they're all here for a reason. They're all dedicated to the betterment of our communities and Midwest City as a whole. And I just want to thank you both very much for all of your service and all of your sacrifice, because this is time away from your grandbabies. This is time away from your families, and I thank you both very much.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you so
Thank you,
very
Susan.
much.
Well, I guess we got some business to do, so we'll get on with it. Like I said, it's a bittersweet night. We now move into the consent agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda so that the council, by unanimous consent, can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any council member requests an item to discuss an item, or if unanimous consent is not received, then the item or items will be removed and heard in regular order. Now, I've had a request to pull item 7.
I got it.
And pull,
Your work wife took care of it.
and 21.
Well, then by all means, go ahead, Mr. Reed.
Make a motion to approve of pull 7, 18, 20, 21, and 23.
Thank you.
I've properly formed motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Mr. Lyon, item number 7.
Discussion and consideration for adoption, including any possible amendment of raising the admission and season passes cost at Reno Swim and Slide from $3 to $5 for 18 and under. 2 and under would remain free, from $6 to $7 for 18 to 54-year-olds, and from $3 to $4 for 55 and older. Early bird passes would increase from $35 to $40, and after early bird, from $45 to $50. Private pool parties from $350 to $400 during hours. Party $20. I'm not sure I understand that one. And begin offering family passes for $175. Mr. Sullivan.
Honorable Mayor and Council, thank you so much for your support and all that is done in Parks and Recreation. Ask that this be removed so that I can clarify a couple of things and bring you some new information from the Park Board, who met yet last evening after this agenda was already published. First item I'd like to clarify, and you're right, Mr. Lyon, it does create some confusion. The during hours party going from $10 to $20, those are the parties that you host, where you host a birthday party. You rent one of our pavilions during our regular business hours, and you rent the pavilion for like a birthday party for a couple of hours. That is what that rate is intended to cover. Hopefully that clarifies that item. The other item was pretty lengthy in discussion last night at the Park Board. A couple of our longtime members of the Park Board, chaired by Mr. David Clampett, reminded some of our new Parks and Recreation staff members that the reasons why we went away from a family pass some years ago, it became very difficult to manage and to enforce. We had a considerable amount of folks who tried to take advantage of us with that situation, claiming that certain family members, sometimes their entire block were in their family, and we knew that wasn't true, but we know that it happened. And so based on that historical knowledge, the Park Board recommended that we at this time continue to study the ability to provide a family pass, and maybe with technology, the ability to better manage a family pass, and they would like to forego reviving that particular rate at this time, if the council so agrees. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
With that being said, if no one on the council has any questions, I was going to move to revise this item to, at the next to last line, to say after during hours party pavilion rental from $10 to $20, and then strike the remainder of that line and move to approve it that way.
I've properly formed motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Sullivan. Item 18, Mr. Lyon.
Discussion consideration, including an amendment thereto, approving and entering into a contract between the Association of Central Oklahoma Governments and the City of Midwest City to receive $58,270 to construct an active corridor along Adair Boulevard. Mr. Bundy.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm prepared to answer any questions. This is a grant that we applied for and received partial funding for, and this would be to take a lane of westbound Adair and turn it into, I call it an active corridor, but it would be for bikes and pedestrians.
I asked to pull this item, and I just wanted to speak on it. This is an idea to create this active corridor lane, as you've described it, Mr. Bundy, that has been around for some years. Early on when I first joined the council with the Innovation District, this came up as a possible idea, and I'm so excited to see it come to fruition. I'm also so excited to see that the Association of Central Oklahoma Governments, otherwise known to us as ACOG, is offering us this $58,270 amount to make this come to fruition. And I just wanted to thank you and staff for all of your efforts to bring this project to fruition. I think it will greatly benefit that area on Adair, and I appreciate it very much. And with that, I would move to approve this item.
Second.
Have properly made motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
You can stay up here,
Abstention?
Mr. Bundy.
You're not getting away.
All right.
Item number 20, Mr. Lyon.
Discussion consideration for adoption, including any possible amendment of change order number 4, amending the contract with Shiloh Enterprises, Inc. to construct the WP Bill Atkins Park in a decrease of $39,613.67 and add 8 days of time.
Can I just jump in there just really quickly?
Yes, ma'am.
So I also asked to pull this item. Sorry, Mr. Bundy. I appreciate the decrease in cost with regard to the overall project for WP Bill Atkinson Park. It would be my ask that since this is a GeoBond project, that amount of $39,613.67, if the remainder of the project finishes within allotment of what's budgeted for bond funds, be put towards a dog park as an addition to the Atkinson Park area. We had talked about it in terms of the original scope, I guess would be the best word for it, of the project. And I think with PetSmart and the area right there and the park being right there, they could use it for outdoors events. PetSmart does its own adoptions. Members of the community could use it, and I think it would well suit our community. So that would be my ask, that we not just release these funds, but hold them with a contingency of, if the project comes in at expense, at expected expense, that we could put this towards a dog park.
And Don, can we legally do that?
Can we legally build a dog
Well,
park?
it
Yes, we
wasn't-
can.
It wasn't in
It's
the
a-
GeoBond what we were gonna build.
I have not reviewed the GeoBond.
It's in the plan. It just,
Is it?
It
Okay.
was an alternate that we can.
yeah, it was an alt bid.
We couldn't fund it initially, but
Yeah.
it looks like we might be able to, or
Yeah,
at
it's
least
been
get most
bid.
of
Great
it.
idea, I just wanted to make sure that legally we could do that.
I
I
tend
don't
to do
remember.
things in a legal way, Mr. Reed.
You attorneys,
I don't remember what the alt bid was on that amount, do you?
It was in the neighborhood of 200,000, and that was
We may,
over a
build-
year ago.
yeah, we
so
may build a different dog park than that one, maybe.
We are gonna do the best we can.
I understand and I appreciate that. That's just my ask with this item. So with
Okay.
that caveat being said, I would move to approve this item.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Item 21, Mr. Lyon.
Discussion, consideration, including any amendment thereto of entering into a contract with Compon, Inc. in the amount of $700,000 design and build playground equipment for the future Mid-America Park expansion, a 2018 GeoBond project. I think Christine asked to pull this one.
Yes, I did. Do we have any footage on it that we can show on the playground or?
There were some pictures that were added to the agenda packet.
Okay.
I don't know if they're in the slideshow itself.
Mhm. Well, I just want to tell you, I did to look at the playground equipment, and I know that this has been ongoing and it's been a real long process. And I wanted to tell you that I really appreciate everything that you have been working on with this project. You're doing a great job. I do plan to have an invite to see the finishing. So is there anything else you would like to tell us about this? Okay, that's the part.
We hope that this is going to be the best park in Midwest City and put us on the map for the metro as far as an accessible playground. Something unique that we haven't had here before. Compan's a good company. They have a lot of experience designing these parts of playgrounds. I've personally visited a few of their playgrounds and I've enjoyed them myself. And I know it's a little unusual to jump around on a playground, but I enjoy it. And I mean, it's part of, I get to bring this item before the council, but there's a lot of staff that's associated with this project that have equal billing, and we're really excited about this project.
And I'd like to add to this that if I'm correct, it is ADA also compatible, a lot of the?
Yes, that is one of the reasons we picked this company, is because it is ADA accessible, and it doesn't look like ADA accessible that we're used to with a bunch of ramps. It's seamless, and so people of all abilities can do it without being singled out.
Wow.
And this is our second ADA accessible park, is it not? We have
Yeah.
one in Ward 2, correct?
Yeah, all the playground equipment I believe that we put in now is ADA. This is just, it's a different look
I got
to
you.
a traditional playground that,
But we have the waterfall for,
Isn't it in Ward 2?
yeah, it's, I wanna say it's off of Westminster.
Yeah.
We have that one where the kids that are, it has sensories in it, in the
Yes.
playground equipment.
yeah, Optimus Park, and that's a very fine playground too. This is just a different kind of look to it. I don't, all the other playgrounds that we've been putting in have been very good as well.
Well, I want to say again, thank you very much, Bundy. Brandon, you just done such a great job on this, and I know you've been working so hard on this project, and I can see that the GOB bond is with this park is beginning to flourish, and we see the progress. So, thank you again. Thank everyone that's involved in this particular project. Thank you very much.
Christine, since it's your ward, would you like to make the motion to approve?
Yes, I make a motion to approve.
Got
Thank
a-
you.
I've got a properly formed motion and a second.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? The motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Bundy.
Thank you.
Item 23, Mr. Lyon.
Discussion and consideration, including an amendment thereto of reappointing Jim Mcwhorter and Joel Bryant to the Builders Advisory Board for an additional 3-year term.
So Mr. Bundy has left us, it's listed as his item, but I asked to pull this item. The reason why I asked to pull this item is the materials in our packet suggested that the nomination of members to the board was consistent with our ordinance 9-17, which again speaks to members of the board shall be chosen from the residents of the city at large with reference to their fitness for such office, ownership, operation, or involvement in the building, construction, or development business with the city shall also qualify one to serve on the board. I don't have an understanding as to how we came to these particular members. They're being reappointed, and I guess my question is, we've previously talked with regard to the issue of doing recommendations per ward to diversify the representation on these committees, coupled with the experience in those particular areas when projects are being proposed in those specific areas. And so that's my ask with regard to this, to look at the members of the board and determine if we have diversification on those individuals, in addition to the fact that they are involved in ownership, operation, or involvement in building, construction, or development business within the city.
I've got a question. I think that the ordinance also says the members of the board shall be chosen from the residents of the city at large, and not every member is a resident of the city.
I know Mr. Bryant is. I'm not familiar with,
Can we
Mr.
table
Mcwhorter.
this and figure out if everybody is? And
Yeah, we can figure that out and bring it back.
bring it back, let's not table it, take no action, so things can change if need be. But I'm not sure that everybody on here is a resident of the city, and ordinance specifically says that they should be chosen from the residents of the city at large.
Duly noted. So I would tell you, I would say that we need to take no action on this item and bring it back once we do the investigative necessary to ensure that they're both residents.
And I'm not, if we are better served with folks that have businesses in Midwest City that are on that don't live in Midwest City, then the ordinance needs to be changed. I don't have a problem if we have folks whose main business is in Midwest City and they live close by but not in Midwest City on a board like this. But I also think that we have to follow the ordinances the way they're written.
Well, I agree, but we're also hard pressed to get qualified individuals.
I 100% understand, but it doesn't give us the out. We
I
should change
understand.
the ordinances to where we have out.
We will make sure that the investigative is necessary, and we'll bring it back at a later date. So we'll take no action on this item.
I would
Yeah.
also, just before we jump ahead, sorry, I would just ask if we could add, this is one of the ordinances that we look at for review, either with regard to this or the ordinance review committee type of thing.
Okay.
So,
Sarah, you want to take note of that, please?
Now move into the discussion items of our agenda. Discussion item number 1, Mr. Lyon.
PC 2103, public hearing with discussion and consideration for adoption, including any possible amendment of an ordinance to redistrict from C3 Community Commercial to SPUD, Simplified Plan Unit Development governed by the C3 General Commercial District, and a resolution to amend the comprehensive plan from COMM to SPUD, Simplified Plan Unit Development, or SPUD, with added uses of eating establishments, sit-down alcoholic beverages permitted, and brew pub for the property described as Mcwhorter Park, addition East 35 of Lot 27, and all lots 28 and 29 addressed as 227 and 231 West McArthur. Mr. Harless.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Lyon. This is a request to rezone the property from C3 Community Commercial to a simplified planned unit development governed by C4 General Commercial District. The location is the former auto body and paint shop that has been vacant. The owner met with staff and stated that he would like to develop the property so it would be suitable for a restaurant and brewery on the property, which has not been allowable in the C3 district. If approved, all C3 uses would be allowed on the property, with the added uses of eating establishments, sit-down alcoholic beverages permitted, and brew pub. A parking variance has been requested to 38 spots, 9-foot wide stalls, and 18.5 feet deep, an aisle width of 26 feet, for off-street parking. Action is at the discretion of the council. I have gotten to a few questions on this, as to how it fits into with some of our other plans for the original mile. And, back in 2011, we did our 2011 original mile reinvestment plan for the original mile. And in that, it specifically states this area as being a place for interest in to attract new type of commercial, new type of sit-down type restaurants. And then in 2016, we contracted with the Institute for Quality Communities through OU to do a study on the area. It's called the Linkage and Node Studies, and to identify the few areas within the original mile that would be could take advantage of walkability that's been taking around the country, and this meets those parameters on that. And then also just happens to meet in with the trail that comes along Adair and the hawk signal that crosses the road there. in that area to help with walkability. The parking variance can be addressed with the, when this district is complete, we will also have tie-ins with the neighborhood and to the apartment complex with trails so that people will get out of their car and walk from the neighborhood and the apartment complex to be able to visit these establishments. I think the council is aware that we've been working on a district down there called Carburetor Alley as a nickname at this point, and we have met with TAP Architecture, have come up with a preliminary plan to try to address some of the parking issues, landscaping, nice sidewalks, lighting, signage, and those things to be able to do something down there to make a walkable district that a lot of the, as they say, the kids are interested in nowadays. And so I think this project is a step in that direction. So I'll be glad to answer any of your questions at this time.
I would point out one other piece of information. During the budget process, we talked a little bit about this last year, and we know we have some utility issues down there, so we did budget some money for utility issues and to deal with the widening of Air Depot, and now some of the connections are out in the middle of the street. So there are some challenges, but we're prepared to deal with those.
Yeah, we're working on those plans as we talk.
One of the things I'd like to address is I am notoriously anti-variance. Billy has spent the last 6 years whispering into my ear. But this is one that I am for, because right now in many areas we're zoning like it's the 1960s for parking, when we just doing the hospital district, the bicycle route on our depot, we're trying to make this town easier to navigate on foot and by bike. And I think in areas like this, I think some people call it an overlay district, we need to be a little bit more able and a little bit more nimbler to attract stuff like this in the 21st year instead of continuing to zone like it's the 1960s.
Very good
I
point.
agree. This is a great idea for the area. It's going to tie in what's already going on there. So, that being said, does anybody have any other questions?
I do. So I have a comment, actually. My concern with this, and I appreciate the comments and I appreciate the idea of the development of this district. However, my concern is the traffic that we have on these projects that are immediately adjacent to Air Depot in that area causes backup on Air Depot, coupled with it causes an issue with regard to if there's a need for overflow parking. And the more you restrict the parking in that area, the more that you tend to push that parking to go into the street, which is already crowded with residential vehicles. And so I have an objection to doing this for that reason, because I think it's going to compound problems that already exist in that district and also compound the parking problem that already exists in the residential area that it's immediately adjacent to.
What's the net loss of parking?
Since it was a body shop before, the park and done in the 50s, it's the parking requirements weren't the same as what they'd be for a restaurant. What's required
what's
is
the
a 68.
variance?
With a
How
68 is what's required, and right now 38 is what's proposed.
Can we put no parking signs on the street in front of it?
Well,
Sure
and
we
I
can.
think what we discovered in this TAP study, because the parking was a very big concern and a very big issue, there's a lot of parking down there. It's just not shared with everyone. And what we're going to do as a project and as a proposal coming back to you all in a few months or several months is kind of an overlay district or a PUD, and have shared parking or shared access agreements so everybody can share parking down there. That's done downtown Edmond, that's done Oklahoma City, a lot is done all over the country, and it's something that would be very useful in this area.
And
But with
I
all due
would rather
respect-
have 30 fewer parking spots that would attract 30 fewer cars and have 30 fewer cars driving and adding to the congestion than having 68 parking spots, which
But
would
that's
cause
not
even
what's
more
gonna
congestion.
happen inevitably. What's going to happen is those cars are gonna overflow, just like they do when Midwest City High School plays football and they're in the streets, okay? And this is not something, we're talking 7 nights a year with Midwest City High School football. This is something that is full-time business. There's proposed restaurant space, service of alcoholic beverages, et cetera. So you're talking about businesses that typically are gonna be open later too. You're gonna have people parking in the neighborhood, in the residential spaces and moving through there. We've talked about this idea of an overlay district. Mr. Johnson was one of the proponents of the overlay district, but we've been talking about it for over 2 years now, and we're not there. So at this point, I'm opposed to this
Yep.
for those reasons, because we don't have a solution to this, and what you're going to do is push that traffic, that parking, into the neighborhood.
So the
Your
joint,
concern
the
is-
joint parking worked where the catch is, because the catch doesn't have enough parking for where they are. But they use the parking that is owned next to it, because, so there are ways with these folks working together, because there's a lot of parking over there on the other side of Catch where that smoothie place is. It's called, yeah, Catch now.
No.
With these folks working together, because what happens when you park behind Catch and you walk over and have a beer, you're gonna come over. They want people walking back and forth because it builds up.
But-
There is enough parking there when you take into account that additional overflow parking that there is with the smoothie place.
But in fairness, there's no agreement to use that parking, there's no guarantee. So if at any point in time, the Tropical Smoothie Cafe says,
Well, the
that's my
Tropical
parking
Smoothie
lot.
Cafe really can't. It would be Alley and it would be Bob Dylan, not the singer, unfortunately.
Depending on who has the contract rights for
No.
the parking space. But ultimately, if there's an objection raised, they can have vehicles towed that aren't at their place of business if they hold the rights to that parking space. And that's not what's contemplated here. There's no such shared parking agreement that we're talking about.
Your objection and concerns are gonna be duly noted, and we can take that into consideration as the PUD comes forward. Is that not correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so.
I'm gonna move to deny it.
I'm gonna move to approve it.
Hold on. We got a move to denial. Do I have a second? The motion dies due to the lack of a second. Hold on just a minute.
Once it is a public hearing, we can't make a motion.
This is a public hearing. Does anyone have any comments in regard to this issue in the audience?
Are we talking about McWhorter down past the catch?
Ma'am, if
You'll
you
have to
want to
approach
address the
the
council, you
microphone.
need to come forward.
I'm sorry.
That's
okay.
quite all right. Could you state your name and address, please?
Mrs. Holly Stokes, 10216 Alicia Drive, Midwest City. The street that we're talking about, McWhorter, past the restaurant called The Catch, and there is still an active apartment complex called Midwest City Depot on that left-hand side.
There is.
And then there's a dead end at the end. All right, I had a family member that used to live in those apartment complex, and it was very congested. She needed a ride. I would have to pick her up and drop her off frequently, and noted the congestion created by the apartment complex. And that's before there were very popular restaurants in that area as well, and looked at the dead end and thought, it's a shame that something couldn't be extended there. That's all.
Thank you for your comment, ma'am. Getting back to the motion, I have a second that was, or a motion that failed to give it a second. Do I have a second motion?
I'd make a motion to approve.
I now have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'm gonna say I'll go second motion as long as is that good, you're gonna get the spud where you can make sure that they're gonna have that parking.
We are going to work to bring that to you all to be adopted soon as we move forward with this. And, you know, as the applicant moves forward with their application, hopefully we're not down there doing construction while he's also trying to open and everything. But
Okay.
yes, and we are looking at how to create more parking down McWhorter.
Because
Actually, we are looking at
If I'm
that.
correct, this is about a catch where the fish place is?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I do see your ideology on the point where people can walk across and such.
We have a great development downtown Oklahoma City that looks just like this with multiple restaurants, bars, breweries, retail space. They have, none of them could have opened with the parking each of them have. But they all could open with the parking all of them have.
But
And
that's not what's contemplated right now here.
But this
As
is just
a point of order, I do have a motion.
I'm gonna go
Do I
ahead.
have a second?
As I
With
said,
all due fairness, if you're gonna let Mr. Reed speak in favor of this item, then I have the right to
Well,
protest this
Ma'am,
item.
you voiced your concern.
I understand, and you've tried
your
to shut me
objection,
down throughout the
And I've allowed you
process.
to speak. So your motion failed due to a lack of a second. I have another properly formed motion, and I have a second. I owe a vote to these folks.
so I just want to clarify that. And if not, can we get, with the police be able to get involved in for us how we can get this traffic?
The objections have been noted, and Mr. Harless has agreed to move forward and making sure
Okay.
some of these concerns are addressed.
Second motion
So,
then.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Go ahead and do a roll call vote, Ms. City Clerk.
Ward 1,
Absolutely not.
Ward 3,
Yes.
4,
Yes.
5,
Yes.
6,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. Motion carries. Discussion item number 2, Mr. Lyon.
Discuss, PC 2104, discussion, consideration for adoption, including any possible amendment of the replat of the east 225 feet of Lot 6 and the east 225 feet of the south 20 feet of Lot 5 in Block 3 of the Friendly Acres subdivision described as a part of the northwest quarter of Section 5, Township 11 North, Range 1 West, addressed as 11113 Friendly Lane. Mr. Harless.
Thanks again, Mr. Lyon. This is a request to divide one existing lot into 3 lots for residential development. There are currently no structures on the lots. The area of request is platted as the eastern 225 feet of Lot 6 plus the eastern 225 feet of the Friendly Acres subdivision. The proposed lots meet the minimum standards regarding lot size. If approved, the homes built on each lot must meet the minimum house size, exterior construction materials, and setbacks listed in the zoning ordinance. If the replat application is approved, the applicant is responsible for bringing the curb and gutter along the frontage to city standard, as well as sidewalks along the frontage of the proposed lots. The proposed lots have access to city sewer along the frontage. A public water extension is required prior to the issuance of any building permits. The applicant has agreed to fulfill all the requirements, including the sidewalk along the frontage of the 3 proposed lots, as well as the water extension. The approval of this is at the discretion of the city council. I'm glad to answer any questions.
As I read through the packet, it came to my attention that there's no variances requested on this lot split at all.
That's correct, sir.
Does anyone have any questions, Mr. Harless, regarding this item? Chair to entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Item number 3, Mr. Lyon.
PC 2105, public hearing with discussion and consideration, including any possible amendment of an application to rename Alicia Drive located within the Frolic addition to Buens Drive. Mr. Harless.
Thanks again, Mr. Lyon. A resident of Midwest City has submitted an application to rename the existing public street of Alicia Drive in the Frolic Village Edition. The applicant seeks to change the name of the street to honor the life of someone close to her that died due to colon cancer. The proposed name, Buens Drive, does not conflict with any existing streets in Midwest City and would be acceptable. A total of 37 addresses would be affected by the name change. Staff has received calls from residents who live on Alicia Drive in Frolic Village Edition. Many of the calls express concerns with the trouble that the neighbors will have to go through to get their address changed, and all the mailings and documents such as driver's license and cards and everything else. One of the callers suggested that renaming the park as adjacent to Alicia Drive as a substitute for renaming the street. And this caused a lot of discussion at the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission recommended denial of it. But some of those suggestions were, besides naming the park possibly, that maybe an additional street sign in a different color to memorialize people's names that have passed could be done throughout the city at different places, or street names in new subdivisions could be done that way. And
Street
so they,
names and what?
new subdivisions. So when they come through, it's often the developer's responsibility to name those if they don't conflict with existing names or that they match with the other things. But
I thought there was a discussion about a monument in the neighborhood park.
I think that was also mentioned. There was several things thrown around that people talked about, and so. But anyway, the Planning Commission denied it, and obviously this is at the discretion of the council.
This is a public hearing, and we have several people that signed up to speak on this particular item. Mr. Stroh, David Stroh.
My name is David Stroh, live at 10129 Alicia Drive, and I am against this name-changing proposal. We moved into there 40 years ago this month, and the 57 people, every resident there, this is going to put a workload on them to change all their credit cards, creditors, utilities, insurances. A lot of this could be done over telephones and online, but there's a lot of things that you've got to go out and do. Like, I don't want to go through the procedure of getting another real ID again. That was a pain in the first place. Changing passports, changing everything you have, you know. And then there's costs involved in it too. If you have professionals that have drawn up wills and power of attorneys, and some families on the street have family trusts. These people don't renew these things or make changes to them for nothing. The other thing is I think it sets a bad precedence for the city, because just in the first 15 houses on that block in the last 2 years, we've had at least 7 people die. We could go into a name changing, you know, and the council becomes somebody that has to say, okay, you're deserving, you're not deserving. I don't think that's a good idea for the city. Thank you.
Mr. Stroh, appreciate it. Brittany Alley. Did I pronounce that right, Brittany?
Array.
Array, okay.
Array, but close.
I'm sorry.
No problem. Good evening. My name is Brittany Array. I live on 3945 Northwest 122nd Street, apartment letter C, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. I'm the applicant that got the application process started. For those behind me, it's going to be a bit redundant, but my initial purpose of this is that I was diagnosed with colon cancer at 22, where I met my friend Corian while we were both going through radiation and chemotherapy together. While I'm not a resident of Midwest City, Corian was. She lived in Midwest City, specifically Alicia Drive, her entire life from birth up until her passing. Our hope was to bring awareness to colon cancer, as it does more than just affecting those age 50 and over. Again, I was 22. Colon cancer, by 2030, colon cancer will become the #1 most leading cause of death for cancer for those 45 and younger. After having spoke to residents of the neighborhood, I completely understand their concerns, all of which are valid. Honestly, if somebody wanted to change the street that I lived on, I probably wouldn't be too pleased. So I didn't want to take that away from them, and I don't mean to disrespect them in any way, shape, or form. However, a lot of residents did they provided great alternatives in terms of like possible, changing the park and the honorary street and so on and so forth. So I really hope that that was something that we can consider in hopefully commemorating her in some way. And again, it's not just about Corian. It's about my colon cancer story and that of many survivors and those that are deceased before me. I do have a petition here that was signed by 31 residents on Alicia Drive, all in favor of renaming the park. Hopefully I could leave this up here or I could keep it, just something that I would like for you all to consider. And again, thank you so much for listening to my story.
Mr. Sullivan, who's in charge of the park board? Wouldn't that need to go through the park board?
It's interesting you would bring that up, Mr. Mayor. We recently, Don and I, reviewed the ordinances that govern the park board. That is an item that's probably in a gray area as far as the park board is concerned. It's not specifically addressed. The ordinance talks about operations and park rules and those sorts of things, but naming is not necessarily in their scope. But we have taken up those types of items to the park board in the past and get their recommendations. So it'd be at your pleasure.
Why don't you do this body a favor and take her petition and present it to the park board and then have them come back with a recommendation?
Absolutely, we can do that, sir.
Would that be appropriate?
We can do that, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to make a motion to deny this based on the planning commission's recommendations and for.
Okay, we have one more person that signed up to
Okay.
talk. Marcus Hayes? Marcus Lee? Oh, there you are, Marcus. Oh, and I got some information for you, by the way, on a side note. So.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Got to pull this down for obvious reasons. Well, I guess I misunderstood the sign up for a discussion. I really didn't have anything to say about that item. Was directed toward the councilwoman. Briefly, I am the president of the Rolling Meadows Neighborhood Association, world famous Ward 5, and on behalf of the neighborhood, we wanted to thank you for your service to Ward 5. She's always been there, every call. We didn't have to wait weeks for a response, and your heart has always been in the right place. So, on behalf of the Rolling Meadows neighborhood, we want to thank you.
Thanks, Marcus.
Thank you.
You're good.
Thank you. And
Okay, now.
which one was that? Which neighborhood association? Which one? Rolling Meadows. Tell Rolling Meadows I said thank you very much, and I will be seeing them soon.
Okay,
Thank
Mr. Reed, your motion would be appropriate.
First, thank you, Brittany, and while I've never had cancer, my wife has, so I understand how difficult it is. And what you're trying to do for somebody that you went through treatment with is commendable and amazing and beautiful. The reasons to turn it down are many, like the gentleman, Mr. Stroh, got up and spoke about.
Right.
And this is one that I'm going to make a motion to deny with a heavy heart because the motion was brought out of love. But I am going to make a motion to deny it.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I would like to say that I understand, and I do agree with Mayor, what you have said, maybe going towards the park, a spot or something to recognize, but I understand the constituents, residents of on Alicia Drive, that it is quite challenging to have to change everything over cards and change your address. I do feel you all, your deepness there, as well as yours too. And I like to, continue to heal and get well and stay healthy, okay? Amen.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Item number 4, Mr. Stroh. Mr. Lyon.
Public hearing with discussion and consideration for adoption, including any possible amendment of an appeal filed by the owner of the property located at 10216 Alicia Drive for the notice and order for soft surface parking, the younger Mr. Stroh. I've been waiting for 10 minutes to say that.
Thank you, although I have more gray hair, I want to point out.
But not better looking.
I'm fine with that as well. I do want to point out a couple items on this. We received a complaint for a trailer that was in the right-of-way. While the code officer was there, he works the entire area, and that is why this specific house was worked. It was not a complaint on this house, but we were there because of it. As you can see from the documentation I provided, the trailer was parallel to the drive and would not have received notice without a complaint from us being called over. So the applicants provided pictures that I also provided from the code officer. I want to stress that whenever we receive an appeal, it stops the time clock and the violation is allowed to continue until you guys make a ruling. This applicant's complied with the ordinance right away, so I want to give them props for that. They listened to what the code officer told them and took care of it while waiting to hear on their appeal. So the other is, this is an item that the Ordinance Review Committee has on their list to review. Staff has met, and due to COVID and weather and other things, Ordinance Review Committee's been pushed down a couple different times lately. But this is an item that is coming back to them to discuss. As you guys remember from a discussion when a developer was up here and wanting to do some different things with parking, I don't want them to have to pour concrete or do things permanent against what they're not wanting to do to their own property if it's something that the ordinance review is going to be changing. But as the ordinance is written today, code gave them notice because of what the way they were was not in compliance with the ordinance. So this is 100% at y'all's discretion, and I want to commend them for taking care of it while waiting to hear from y'all.
This is a public hearing, and I think there's a young lady that wants to come up and talk to us about that. Or a young man, I'm sorry. Whichever.
We're a team.
Okay. Well, tag team us. Could you state your names and addresses for us, please?
William Stokes, 10216 Alicia Drive.
Okay, sir.
And Holly Stokes, 10216 Alicia Drive.
As you can see from the pictures, the vehicle was parked in the grass. I have it up on blocks, like Mr. Stroh had said. Adding permanent to that location would be detrimental to the property in itself. We have a gutter drain that comes right down in there, and adding more permanent is just going to add additional runoff, where by keeping the area open, it allows for the water coming off the roof and down the gutter to absorb into the ground. So this is one of the reasons why we were concerned about putting anything permanent there. Sure. To put something or not permanent, gravel or landscaping.
Landscaping mulch with
mulch,
railroad ties.
Mulch. Again, that becomes damaging to the property in itself as well. We park it on this side. The ordinance says we could do that if we parked it on the other side of the driveway, but that would then be blocking our front door. So this is why we are appealing the ordinance, and we wish to be able to put our trailer back there. We're more than willing to lay down patio block so that it appears to be a finished driveway, even though it is not a finished driveway. We will put down a patio block to fill that space so it would look neater and cleaner for our neighbors.
Well, first off, I want to commend you for recognizing the violation and correcting it immediately. Thank you for doing that. Having been involved with the soft surface parking from its inception, the reason for that ordinance is, I think, pretty obvious. People parking in their front yards. We had one person that had a four-wheel drive vehicle that had 4-foot rut in his front yard, detracted from obviously the property and the values of the property. So that necessitated this ordinance being written and forwarded. I'll be the first to stand up and admit that it's rather ambiguous in the way it's written.
I would agree, sir. One example, as you can see from the trailer, it doesn't meet the
headlight code.
As the ordinance is written, it doesn't fall as a travel trailer or a
ATV.
farm trailer or.
Yes, sir.
a vehicle
So with that
elimination.
being said, this is on our agenda to be reviewed by the Ordinance Review Committee. Actually, it's a separate item because it's so convoluted, and we're looking at different areas of the United States on how they've written theirs. So with that being said, we ask that the citizens of this community be in compliance with the ordinances as they're written, and as we identify these areas. That's why we established 4 years ago the Ordinance Review Committee, to identify these kinds of problems. There's not a readily available solution for you right now that I could offer you from this chair, other than the fact, the promise that we're going to be reviewing this and coming up with a new ordinance that maybe would help you out in your particular situation. There's a lot of different items that we have to look at, and how permanent features such as concrete and other things would affect drainage and everything else. So there's a lot of things that we have to look at. So does anyone else have any comments or?
And you might not have one. Do you have a timeline for them, like when you think it's gonna hit the
No, I don't. Susan, do you remember?
I don't think it's listed.
I know it's on our agenda, on the list of things to do. I can't offer you a good timeline. We've supposed to have met for a couple of times this last couple of weeks, and because of personal issues and sickness, we've had to postpone. I can tell you within the next 6 months, we're gonna be reviewing this and trying to come up with some solution and some verbiage that may correct some of the issues that we've seen over the years. So I know that doesn't offer you anything right now, and I apologize for that, but I can guarantee you that we're looking at it and we're gonna try to come up with a solution.
Could we add soft surface to the April 11th agenda?
We can add it, but there won't be,
That's gonna be
It's a
a,
specially set
that's
meeting.
gonna be one item.
It's a discussion item.
One item in one meeting. It's a very onerous ordinance.
So I know,
Are those meetings open to the public?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, if you guys wanted to be there, you could be, if staff would let you know. If somebody would reach out to you, or
That I would
crazy
like.
enough idea, look at our
Yes.
agendas and see when all of our stuff meets, but if you could, it is open to the public, so you could have a chance to speak there as well.
Outside of this meeting here and now, I would like to be able to meet in the future with
Okay.
someone from that council to discuss these parameters.
Okay.
We would like to do that, yes, please.
No
So-
problem. I mean, we need input. We're not the brain trust people think we are.
Not every house in Midwest City is built in the same parameters. Where, there's variety, and with that variety has to be different considerations.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I agree.
so Mayor, can we give a waiver for 6 months? That gives us time to review everything, that they could be,
Well, I'd have to defer to the city attorney on that. I don't think so, but
My fear is,
We'd open every single thing up to a waiver for the next 6 months. Travel trailers, everything.
And right now, with all due respect, there's a pickup truck with a trailer behind it that's parked at a residence in my ward where it's soft surface, there are ruts cut. This pales in comparison to what's happening there. So if we were to confer a waiver for no enforcement on soft surface, we would be conferring a waiver also for everyone universally.
Yeah.
And that would really be difficult because, again, the appearance of the one that I'm referencing, there are huge ruts cut in the yard from that, so.
okay. So maybe we ask you to comply for a while, until this is reviewed and
Mr. City
addressed
Attorney?
again.
One thing, if you guys have a few minutes to stick around, Mr. Stroh, we just talked about a potential
Solution or temporary?
option. We'll put it
Temporary
as an
option.
option. Mr. Stroh's gonna discuss it with you, when city council meeting is completed, if you have a few minutes to stick around.
We
Yes,
do.
please.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, right now, the chair would entertain a motion to deny the appeal.
Motion to deny.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, move into new business public discussion. Does anyone have any, in the audience, have anything to bring before council? Hearing or seeing none?
Come on up.
Oh,
Come on
yes, sir. Yes, sir. I want to remind you that because it's not an agenda item, we cannot engage in a back and forth discussion with you, but you can certainly express your views with us, sir.
Yes. Yes, my name is Brent McGee. I'm a resident at 9409 Shorewell Drive. So I've dreaded this for a minute. First, I want to say thank you to all the members of the council for allowing me to speak today. I would also like to thank the mayor for all the work he's accomplished throughout the city. The city of Midwest City has reached some great milestones in the past year. We have the new monument on I-40. We have the new chief, Sid Porter. We have construction of several trails and renovated parks around the city. The opening of New Hope Baptist Church, a predominantly African-American institution. The opening of our new animal shelter, in which my family has had the luxury of adopting our family dog. And lots of new business looking to establish roots right here in our great city. I also want to recognize the hard work that the fine folks do at City Hall daily. More so Jill for the many tasks she has to take on every day, as well as the great folks over at the Grants Department and every employee who works for the city of Midwest City. I'm very honored to be a part of this great community. And through the Grants Department, Midwest City has helped pay for my tuition for this semester. And I'm on track to graduate with an associate's in political science next year. I'm kind of nervous right now. I also want to thank Councilwoman Allen for her achievements and the time she spent in Ward 5. I had the opportunity to speak with her on several different occasions, and I'll say that that woman is a great woman of genuine camaraderie to all of us that know her. As we usher in Councilwoman Benna, whom I look forward to working with on several community issues and projects, I hope that Ms. Allen will bestow upon Ms. Benna the best advice and wisdom possible from her tenure as councilwoman, so that our new councilwoman can continue in the footsteps of her predecessor. I would also like to make note that after several years of consideration, I've been able to successfully start my own business, McGee Asset Management. And with its firm roots in the state of Oklahoma, I'll be consulting with companies and doing contract work, always protecting the interests of this great institution we call government. Leading by example at McGee Asset Management, the motto will be, good business always contributes to the economy. And through healthy tax solutions, we will fund our citizens all the way down to local governments, leaving no room for our legislators to fight over budgets or funding certain programs, while the small business owners and citizens get the brunt end of the deal. And to conclude the first half of that address, I do have some issues that I think members of the council should be aware of. Before I get started, I want you to know that I grew up in the mean streets of Oklahoma County, so I can say that a lot has transpired over the past couple of years, pre-COVID and up until today. After several talks with criminal justice advocates, speaking at public hearings, attending committee meetings at the Capitol, and many, many press conferences, I know that over the past year, a lot has changed in Oklahoma County. With the new district attorney coming in, new members to the council, and elections being held around the state, there are many more changes to come. Now, the issues at hand. I tried reaching out to the police department for community partnership as well as being a community liaison for the greater area of Midwest City, with intentions to be a minister at our city jail so that we could get ahead of this crime wave that we're seeing across our nation. I was laughed at and appalled by the way staff handled things over at the department. And that's not to say those aren't great folks, but I think more generosity and being more attentive to our needs as well as to the community would go a long way. I guess in the beginning, I just wanted a community award or some type of recognition for the hard work and determination that I put into making changes around this state. But it's been a lot harder than I originally thought. I've looked forward to working with the department for several years now on police reforms and all matters pertaining to the community. However, when I was asking for assistance and help from police on other matters that has since been dismissed in the court of law, or the ones currently being lobbied over, I was under the impression our department was here to help those in need and not punish them. My reputation as a responsible advocate and community leader came under attack because of the allegations leading to a wrongful arrest made by the department. I think this should be a pivotal moment in history where we need to pay attention to the way this country is headed, or the roads we've already been down in this nation will come back to haunt us. No one really wants to defund the police or see our neighbors murdered on camera, nor do we want to see members of law enforcement being shot at or killed. We want to see our local authorities step up and be more proactive in the communities, not just better policing, but setting a better example for our children and for the next generation of law enforcement. Showing empathy to those who suffer from mental health, or to the parents who struggle to provide for their families, or to the folks coming home from incarceration and confinement. Give them a chance to see the real men and women behind the uniform and not the tough exterior they have to put on every day. I know it's hard with what's going on around the nation, but if we hold firm and protect those American values, then this too shall pass. I truly believe we are good people. Sometimes folk pick up bad habits or do bad things because they weren't properly taught. And the truth is, that's something this country has struggled with for a long time. We have to work together, making the necessary changes for a better community, a better city, and a better state, so that we can make for a better nation. We can start now. The moment we walk out these doors, we can make a promise to our Creator that we will work diligently to make for a better society, no matter how upsetting it may be to work with someone. We can do this if we work together. God bless us all, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Yes, sir.
Does anyone else have anything to bring before the council? Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to be brief. I'm Sheila Williams, and I am with Grown But Not On My Own, the Life Skills. And I would be remiss if I would get out of here without saying some words from Ms. Christine Allen. Because of her, she has opened the pathway and the gateway for our organization, and she has absolutely supported every endeavor that we have been on, whether we've been in Midwest City or downtown in Scissortail. We could have been at the movies across town. This girl shows up everywhere with those kids, and she's always coming in, speaking to our rowdy bunch, and they absolutely love her. So I just want to publicly say, thank you, Christine, for giving us the opportunity. And because of you, we're going to go forward, and you all, we're only just beginning. So thank you, and God bless you on your endeavors. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Does anyone else have anything to bring before council? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Diana Heath. I live at 10332 Alicia Drive. And I wanted to comment on Brittany Arez. She wanted to bring colon cancer awareness, and she certainly did. It melted my heart, and I was opposed to changing our street. But I saw her on Channel 9 this week, and there's going to be a colon cancer awareness walk, and she was interviewed on that. And I'll do whatever I can for colon cancer awareness because of her. And I'm surprised she didn't say anything. The walk they're having is March 26th at Silvertail Park. And I'm considering doing that just for Corian. So what she did, even though it seems sad that it had to be denied, she did make a point. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have anything to bring before council? Hearing or seeing none, we do have an executive session attached to this agenda. Mr. Lyon.
Discussion and consideration of one entering into executive session is allowed under 25 OS Section 307B3 to discuss the purchase or appraisal of real property, and in open session authorizing the general manager administrator to take action as appropriate based on the discussion in executive session.
As we've traditionally done, I would request a motion to recess from the council and move on to our other agendas.
Motion to recess.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to recess. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. The council agenda is now recessed, and I call to order the Midwest City Municipal Authority. We have a consent agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda so the trustees by unanimous consent can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any trustee requests to discuss an item or a unanimous consent is not received, then the item or items will be removed and heard in regular order. Chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. We move into new business public discussion. Does anyone have anything to bring before the authority? Hearing or seeing none, we do have an executive session attached to this agenda. Mr. Lyon.
Discussion consideration of one entering to executive session as allowed under 25 OS 307C11 to confer on matters pertaining to economic development, including the transfer of property, financing, creation of a proposal, and advice of business to remain or to locate within the city, in an open session authorizing the general manager administrator to take action as appropriate based on the discussion in executive session.
As we have done in the past, I would request a motion to recess the authority. We do have a discussion item after the executive session, which we'll bring to your attention when we reconvene. The chair would entertain a motion to recess.
Motion to recess.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. I call to order the Midwest City Hospital Authority. We have a consent agenda attached to this agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda so the trustees by unanimous consent can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any trustee requests an item to discuss an item, or if a unanimous consent is not received, then the item or items will be removed and heard in regular order. Chair to entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. We do have a discussion item. Mr. Lyon.
Discussion and consideration of adoption, including any possible amendment of an action to reallocate assets, change fund managers, or make changes in the statement of investment policy, guidelines, and objectives. So this is a agenda item we have, as you all know, on every hospital authority agenda. And we recently had a meeting with the finance committee for the hospital authority, which, based on market changes that our advisor has requested some changes, and Tia is going to go over that, our finance director, Tia Cromar.
Yes, just
Tia.
as Mr. Lyon had said, we had our chance on March 2nd to meet with Mr. Garrels, as well as he brought a possible emergency successor, as well as a possible successor when Mr. Garrels decides to retire. His recommendations, as you can see from the memo, are pretty self-explanatory of where, just based upon current economic situation, it is a good idea to rebalance, to have more cash equivalents of 20%, domestic bonds of 10%, domestic equity of 70%, versus, as you can see, where we are currently located at right now.
Does anybody have any questions?
This will give us more liquidity as we go through working in the hospital district, revitalization, and the things we're doing with SSM, so.
Pat and I got to sit in on the meeting with you and Tim and Jim and a successor, which has always been one of my and the council's issue, was if something happens to Jim, what happens to our stuff? So I think Pat, and I'll let Tim speak for himself, I think we're all comfortable at this point with who we think the successor might be. And when they've got some more traps to run and some other stuff, but moving in the right direction in case there is an unforeseen circumstance with Jim, we've got somebody that can pick the ball up and run with it.
So we met with, is it Marco?
Keith Reynolds.
Yeah.
Yep.
Marco Financial.
Correct.
Is the group that was brought in there from Atlanta. And they have a huge portfolio, billions and billions of dollars portfolio. And this is they provide a lot of services that maybe a one-man shop can't, some analysis that can't be done. But this is something Jim has brought in, not we're paying for. This is a part of his package. We're not paying anything extra for this, but Keith Reynolds, keep calling him Keith Richards. I don't quit doing that. We met separately and anyway, we feel very comfortable with Jim's selection of having Keith and Marco work with Jim on this project until Jim's ready to retire.
And we all have been worried about a successor plan for quite some time.
That's correct.
That is true. So with that being said, any further discussion? Chair to entertain a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Now move into new business public discussion. Does anyone have anything to bring before the authority? Hearing or seeing none, we are hereby adjourned. And I call to order the Special Economic Development Authority. We have one discussion item. Mr. Lyon.
Discussion consideration for adoption, including any possible amendment of the February 22nd, 2022 meeting minutes. I'm sorry.
Chair to entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. And we move into public discussion. Does anyone have anything to bring before the authority? Hearing or seeing none, we do have an executive session attached to this agenda. Mr. Lyon.
Discussion consideration of one entering into executive session as allowed under 25 OS 307B3. Discuss the purchase or appraisal of real property, and two, in open session authorizing the general manager, administrator to take action as appropriate based on the discussion in executive session.
Matt, do we need to recess, or can we just go into this one and then go back into all of them?
Actually, we do need to recess. We've got one more agenda.
Motion to recess.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second to recess. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. We are hereby recessed from the authority, and I call to order the City of Midwest City Special Utilities Authority. We have a consent agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda so that the trustees, by unanimous consent, can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any trustee requests to discuss an item or a unanimous consent cannot be received, then the item or items will be removed and heard in regular order. Can entertain a motion to approve.
Motion. Motion to approve.
Second.
All right.
I have a properly formed motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We move into public discussion. Does anyone have anything to bring before the authority? Hearing or seeing none, we are hereby adjourned, and I would request a motion to reconvene the Midwest City Council meeting.
Motion to reconvene Midwest City Council meeting.
Any discussion?
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now I need a motion to go into executive session.
Motion, get,
As my work wife says,
Executive session.
a motion to reconvene or go into executive session on all three executive items.
Already made.
motion to go into executive session. Oh, second?
I've got a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, we are currently in executive session. Please excuse yourself.
Can we have a recess? Can we have a 5-minute
Go
recess?
upstairs.
Okay.